seriously, look how big it is. I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
In the east, the Minerva monster, Momo, the Sister Lakes creature, a lot of those creatures have hair all over their face, and it's almost as if the eastern Bigfoot is a little farther away, is a little more invisible to the eyewitnesses than the western.
Ella survived something no one should. Bigfoot kidnapped her, forced her into a twisted game of survival, and she had to teach them to use her own gun just to stay alive. The situation grew darker when they brought another human to the altar. She knew she couldn't be next. Tune in to find out if Ella manages to escape the clutches of the creatures. Ella's unreal misadventure on Ape Island. Ella, being the stubborn, determined type, had always wanted to prove she could sail the seas all on her own. She had all the skills her old man had taught her, and by her early 20s, she was ready to conquer the world, one ocean at a time. Things went swimmingly for a while, but you know how these tales go. The ocean is fickle, and fate is often cruel. After getting a warning from some island locals to avoid a place ominously called Ape Island, she brushed it off. Ape Island? It sounded ridiculous, like something out of a cartoon. She was too smart to fall for what she assumed were superstitious ramblings. What she found there was unbelievable, something that would change everything. But what was it? We'll get to that soon. As she sailed closer to the dreaded island, the sea turned as still as a glassy pond. Wind, gone. Movement, nothing. It was eerie, like the ocean itself had suddenly decided to just stop. And that's when she decided to get a little closer. Why not see what the fuss was about? No sooner had her curiosity started whispering to her than a storm rolled in, as if the universe itself was shouting, "This is a terrible idea." But there she was, alone, struggling against the angry waves, trying to keep her boat from capsizing. The storm had other plans, though, and pushed her toward the island despite her best efforts to stay away. When she woke up, bleary-eyed on deck, there it was. Ape Island, dark and foreboding, like something straight out of a horror novel. It's one thing to hear ghost stories over dinner, but it's another to find yourself face to face with the real deal. She tried to keep her cool. Maybe she could just rest for a while and sail out again once things calmed down, but she had no idea what kind of calm awaited her. While she was sitting below deck, just trying to enjoy a moment of normalcy with a glass of wine and her crochet, there was a jolt. A jolt that wasn't just a wave, it was like something had grabbed the boat, actually grabbed it. And before she could react, it happened again. But worse, something out there wanted her. Whatever it was had decided that her sailboat looked like a snack and it was about to rip it apart to get her. She rushed up to the deck only to see an enormous, wet, hairy arm gripping her boat. Did she freak out? Absolutely. It was Bigfoot, all right, looking like an oversized ape-human mix with weirdly glistening skin and eyes that gave off zero warmth, just cold emptiness. He wasn't there to chat or exchange pleasantries. He was there to flip her boat and drag her down into the water. You'd think this was the end, and frankly, it should have been. But nope, she woke up again, this time on the shore. Alive, though she was almost wishing she wasn't, given what she saw next. That same ugly mug staring right at her. And to make it worse, this wasn't some lone creature. No, there were more of them moving out of the jungle like it was a casual meet and greet. Bigfoot and friends, except there was no friendly theme song, just a sense that things were about to get much, much worse. They were interested in her, or more specifically, her gun. Of course, they found her weapon, and these big, hairy creatures were fascinated by the shiny metal object. Apparently, Bigfoot was looking to arm himself. It wasn't all that comforting, but it bought her some time. She ended up giving them a little firearms tutorial, because why not educate Bigfoot on modern weaponry if it means you get to live another day? Things went sideways when one of the creatures got a little too trigger-happy, almost blasting his fellow Bigfoot in the face before the chief stepped in. The gun was taken away, and it seemed like her good fortune was coming to a very abrupt end. But just in time, one of the tribe's females, a sort of Bigfoot housekeeper who had taken a liking to her, stepped in with some prophecy nonsense about her being some chosen one sent by the gods. It sounded absurd, but when you're staring death in the face, you're not about to argue with a little divine intervention. Ella was granted some freedom, or at least that's what they called it. She was now a guest of the tribe, and they moved her to a slightly less horrifying hut. There was even a bed, if you could call a pile of leaves a bed. She played along, biding her time, observing their routines, trying to figure out how she was going to get out of there. And the whole prophecy angle? She was not buying it for a second, but if pretending to be their chosen one meant she could eventually find a way back to her boat, she'd embrace whatever role they threw at her. So there she was, stuck in Bigfootville, trying to make herself useful while planning her escape. Every day was a balancing act, keeping them happy enough not to murder her while also figuring out how she could get out of there. And let's be real here, it wasn't looking good. They were armed, they were massive, and they were more organized than she'd like to admit. But she wasn't about to become a permanent resident of Ape Island. The days went on, and while the Bigfoots, or Sasquatches, whatever you want to call them, began to treat her like some sort of prized pet, she was constantly planning. Would she make it back to her boat? Was it even still intact? She didn't know, but one thing was for sure. She was not about to sit around waiting for whatever prophecy nonsense they believed in to play out. Escaping wasn't just about getting away, it was about outsmarting her captors. Escaping Bigfoot's jungle trap. Ella knew she had one chance to escape, and when it came, she had to be ready, so she waited, biding her time, playing along with their rituals, all the while keeping an eye on that shore, hoping that the ocean, which had so cruelly betrayed her before, might just help her escape this nightmare. Only time would tell if she'd make it out alive or if she'd end up as another campfire story for the next sailor foolish enough to cross paths with Ape Island. She began taking careful notes of everything she observed about the tribe, their routines, their habits, even their strange way of communicating. There was a pattern to their rituals, a certain predictability that she hoped she could use to her advantage. She noticed that the tribe gathered every morning at the center of the village for what seemed to be a communal ceremony. They would chant, stomp their feet, and raise their spears all in sync. It was during these times that the village seemed the most distracted, the perfect opportunity to make her move, if only she had the right plan. Her hut, though slightly more comfortable than the stone altar, was still essentially a cage. The guards posted outside were always watching, their eyes never leaving her, but they seemed to relax their vigilance during the morning gatherings. She figured this might be her only chance. She spent her evenings crafting a makeshift rope out of vines, hiding it beneath her pile of leaves, and rehearsing in her mind exactly how she would slip away. She knew she couldn't just run blindly into the jungle. She had to have a direction, a destination. The tribe was restless, more agitated than usual. She peeked through a small gap in her hut's wall and saw them gathered around something or someone. Her heart sank when she realized it was another human. A man, bound and clearly terrified, was being dragged towards the stone altar. Her stomach turned. She had to get out of there before she ended up in the same situation. She waited until the chanting reached its peak, the moment when the tribe seemed most lost in their own world. She slipped out of her hut, her makeshift rope hidden under her arm, and made her way towards the edge of the village. Her heart pounded in her ears, every step feeling like it might be her last. She kept to the shadows, moving slowly, deliberately, until she reached the tree line. Ella paused for a moment, glancing back at the village. The chanting continued, the tribe oblivious to her absence. She took a deep breath and bolted into the jungle, her feet barely touching the ground as she ran. The dense foliage tore at her clothes, branches whipped her face, but she didn't stop. She knew she had to put as much distance between herself and the village as possible before they realized she was gone. She ran until her legs burned, until her lungs screamed for air. She finally stopped, collapsing against a tree, her chest heaving. She looked around, trying to get her bearings. She had no idea where she was, but she knew she had to keep moving. She couldn't afford to rest for long. She pushed herself back up, using the tree for support, and continued deeper into the jungle. The sun is climbing higher in the sky. She was exhausted, her body aching, but she forced herself to keep going. She had to find her boat and had to find a way off this island. She stumbled through the undergrowth, her eyes scanning for any sign of the shore. Finally, she heard it, the distant sound of waves crashing against the rocks. Hope surged through her, giving her the strength to push forward. When she broke through the trees and saw the ocean, tears filled her eyes. Her boat was there, battered but still afloat, anchored just off the shore. She waded into the water, the cool waves lapping at her legs as she swam towards her vessel. She pulled herself up onto the deck, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. She had made it. But she knew she wasn't safe yet. She had to get the boat moving, had to put as much distance between herself and Ape Island as possible. She scrambled to the cockpit, her hands shaking as she worked to raise the anchor. The wind had picked up, filling the sails, and she felt a surge of hope. She was going to make it. As the boat began to move, she looked back at the island. She could see figures on the shore, the tribe gathered at the water's edge, watching her leave. She didn't know if they would try to follow if they had boats of their own, but she didn't care. She was free, and she wasn't going to waste another second looking back. She sailed through the night, the wind carrying her away from the nightmare that had been Ape Island. She didn't stop until the sun began to rise, the first light of dawn painting the horizon in shades of pink and gold. Only then did she allow herself to rest, collapsing onto the deck, her body finally giving in to the exhaustion that had been threatening to overtake her for days. She had survived. Somehow, against all odds, she had made it out alive. She knew she would never forget what had happened on that island, the terror she had faced, the things she had seen, but she also knew that she was stronger than she had ever realized. She had faced Bigfoot and lived to tell the tale. Hypervigilance, that's when you're constantly on edge, waiting for something bad to happen. She's got that down to a science now. She's constantly scanning her surroundings, half expecting Bigfoot or some other terror to appear from behind every bush. Her body's in a never-ending fight or flight mode, never really getting a moment to just relax. It's draining, and it's not like she can just switch it off. After escaping the island, Ella now faced a new fight, the one inside her mind. Battling trauma and depression from Bigfoot's grasp. Her anxiety isn't the kind where you feel a little jittery before a test. It's like an all-encompassing fear that grips her out of nowhere. Normal stuff like being in a crowd or walking through a quiet area might send her spiraling. It's as if she's constantly afraid that she'll get snatched up again, like she's back in that hopeless state. Depression isn't much kinder. When your world gets reduced to fear, avoidance, and endless stress, it's pretty easy to lose interest in things you once enjoyed. Feeling hopeless, like there's a shadow over everything, that's just her reality now. The darkness Bigfoot dragged her into might be gone physically, but it left a lasting mark in her mind. And here's where things get a little more twisted. Stockholm Syndrome. That's where you start feeling some weird connection to the one who held you captive. It sounds crazy, but when you're in a situation that's all about survival, sometimes your brain latches onto any scrap of humanity it can find, even if it's in the thing that's tormenting you. Maybe there were moments when Bigfoot wasn't being completely terrifying and her brain took those moments as hope. Even if it's 100% true, it's hard for anyone to take that seriously without a heavy dose of skepticism. Society likes to label things, and people would probably want to chalk her experience up to something made up or delusional. The stigma that comes with that is suffocating. She's already gone through hell, and now she has to deal with people doubting her sanity too. It's just one more reason for her to pull away from the world. If she's going to get past all this, it's going to be a long and complicated road. Therapy, a lot of therapy, is probably her best bet. A trauma-focused approach could help her sort through the chaos and regain some semblance of control over her mind and body. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for instance, could help her reframe those intrusive thoughts, slowly getting her to a place where she can manage them. But it's not just about the sessions, it's about actually wanting to confront all that darkness head-on, which is easier said than done. Joining a support group might be a game changer too. Being around people who've been through their own versions of hell can give her a sense of solidarity that's been missing. She's not alone in feeling the way she does, and that's something that can be incredibly comforting when the rest of the world feels miles away from understanding her. Plus, hearing about how others have learned to cope could give her the push she needs to keep moving forward. Ella might also need to do a little homework. Educate herself on trauma responses. Try to understand why her body and mind are reacting the way they are. Knowledge is power. If she can see her symptoms as normal responses to an extreme situation, maybe she'll stop feeling so broken. Her reactions, the anxiety, the nightmares, the avoidance, they're all her body's way of trying to protect her. Understanding that could take some of the weight off. Then there's the everyday stuff: self-care, taking back her life in small doses. Physical activity might be a good outlet: running, yoga, something that gets her moving and helps her shake off some of that tension. And mindfulness, as corny as it sounds, could actually help her find moments of peace, grounding her in the present when her mind wants to drag her back to the nightmare. Reclaiming hobbies she loved before, even if it's just a little bit at a time, could be a way for her to remember that she's more than what happened to her. She's still herself, just a version that's been through something unimaginable. Some people go through horrible experiences and come out the other side stronger, more appreciative of life, more determined to live it fully. If she can tap into that, if she can find resilience and growth beyond the trauma, then maybe she can start to see herself as more than just a victim. It's a slow journey and there's no clear end point, but it's possible she'll find a way to make something meaningful out of everything she's survived. The biggest challenge for her is finding a way to heal despite the nightmares, the flashbacks, and the stigma. The best thing we can do is try to understand, to listen, and to believe her. Her survival is a testament not to the fearsome creature of the woods, but to her own resilience, her ability to keep moving forward when everything, including her own mind, seems to be against her. Did Bigfoot really save her for a greater purpose, or was Ella just lucky to escape? Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures.